everyone. Happy Friday. How's everyone doing? Thank you so much for your patience. I know we are starting a couple minutes late here, but I needed to go take care of my doggo. Actually, speaking of my doggo, it looks like the doggo camera is not connected. See if we can fix that before we get this show on the road. Although she's currently behind the camera, so it should. It's not. Why it does not want to connect to? Why doesn't the camera want to connect, little baby? Why doesn't your camera want to connect? The people want to see you. Let me see what's happening here. It is doing the thing it does where it's like, oh, you have to connect via Wi-Fi. It's like, I don't want to connect via Wi-Fi. No device is found. Fantastic. I know it's plugged in. Okay. Give me a second. I'm going to try one thing real quick just to see if I can fix it. And then we'll go back. All right, there we go. Sometimes all you gotta do is unplug it and plug it back in again. So we are fully operational with the doggo camera. All right, thank you all again so much for bearing with me. Let's go ahead and get the chat connected as well. Although it looks like, am I still stuck on my? I'm assuming you guys can see me. Trying to see if I can unhide a message, but anyways, it seems like I can't do that. All right, we are here. We are fully connected. What is going on, y'all? How is everyone's Friday? How is your week? What has been going on in your lives? Any fun things? Any exciting things? Any plans? Any updates? Or maybe things haven't been going so hot. That's okay. Sometimes things don't go to plan, and that's part of living life. My other glasses are all dirty, so I only have a tiny fruit cup to drink water in, so I'm gonna pinky out with my tiny fruit cup. I got these at Target years ago, and they're very cute, but they're very hard to clean. So they're adorable, they're little rainbow fruit thingies. But yeah, that's my life. Tiny fruit cups. I went to my first play party last Saturday. Oh, that's so exciting, Rosebud. Congratulations. Such a big move. Oh, where's the doggo? Great question. Where is she? Oh, she's actually in almost camera position. Now that I actually have it connected, I can move it around. I can get it to focus on her again. It should be boppity beepity. Zoom our way in here. There we go. Look at that. Adorable. Doing a little paw maintenance, as we like to do. There's a TNG Munch starting near me very soon, so I'm super excited about that. Love that. TNG Munches are my favorite, and I know this always comes up whenever somebody mentions TNG, so if you haven't heard of what TNG is before, it is a subtype of kink event, usually Munches, but also there's play parties and other discussion groups I've been to as well, but mostly Munches for the next generation, which is for 18 to 35. And I actually think I did find in my research is a Star Trek reference intentionally. But it's just for, people that are newer and or younger in the scene to have a place to congregate amongst themselves. A lot of people that are new to the scene feel more comfortable being with people that they're close in age with. And oftentimes, though it might not seem like it from the outside, oftentimes a lot of kink communities are predominantly people in their 40s and 50s, so getting to actually have spaces that are for a little bit of a younger set of people that are more likely to be in a similar place in life and similar level of experience is actually really helpful. I love TNG events. Obviously, they're not, to be clear, there's not some kind of like national board of like TNG events. It's just a name. People just use it. There's not any kind of like standardization for how TNG events are ran. And like any other kink event, just because it has a certain reputation doesn't mean they're all great. Whenever we talk about parties and munches, I do feel the need to say, hey, by the way, just because it's a TNG event or it's like a bent party or it's this isn't monetized, so I'll just say it, but it's like hitchin' bitches, which is like a common one for like rope bondage for women and people who want to be tied by women. Those groups are all can be great. They can also be awful because the kink community is nothing if not a diverse experience, and you got to be careful. Still got to use your wits, but for the most part, TNG is fantastic. So yeah, I've got feelings for a boy. My disappointment is immeasurable. My day is ruined. A+ use of that reference. But men, what can you do? What can you do? I have a feeling on that. Made some connections and got to see so many amazing scenes. It was outside in a forest. Ooh, and the vibes were immaculate. That's very fun. I love outdoor camping events. They don't happen here very often because there's only a really narrow window of time where you can feasibly be outside and also be naked and not either be rained on or freezing and catching hypothermia. So unless maybe you're a real woodsy person and you're doing something, but not on a large scale. Okay, love all the catching up. I'll read some more of those. I do want to quickly say, as we're getting into it here, this is an 18 plus only stream. So if you are not at least 18, the chat is not updating. I just realized that. Oh, that's weird. Leave. I would like to, is it not connected to my YouTube? Weird. The chat is like not actually connected with my streaming software. Yeah, it doesn't even like recognize that it's there. Maybe I should log out and log back in. I just realized now that the chat like wasn't updating. Okay, while I'm doing that, 18 plus only stream, so if you're not at least 18, please don't be here. That is for your safety, my safety, everyone's safety. Please read the rules and the FAQ down below. I have tons of resources and links for answers for common questions. If you're like, how do I find a BDSM event? Where do I buy a flogger? How can I tell my boyfriend I want to try kink? I usually will have resources to pretty much all those basic questions down below. In general, things I won't talk about, going to be like super personal stuff, medical advice, diagnosing you with a mental health disorder, that flavor of thing. I don't like, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you about any of that stuff. If you're like concerned about something, if you're like, hey, I did this scene and like ever since then, my like wrist has been kind of hurting me. Should I be worried? I'm gonna be like, I don't know, go to a doctor. Telehealth is fantastic. You can do remote, not through Zoom, but like a similar service a lot of places now. There is a place called Zoom Care. I don't know if that's like a Pacific Northwest thing, but Zoom Care is actually a great option if you want to just like talk to a doctor remotely and be like, hey, I have this like issue and I don't think I'm sick, but like, should I go to a doctor? Should I like go in person and get treatment? And it's really helpful for that. So I know talking to a doctor about kink stuff can be really nerve-wracking, but there are so many medical providers in the kink community, let me tell you. So actually going and seeing a doctor doesn't always have to be nerve-wracking, but I know everyone has access to that, and it can be expensive, so I get it. But there's also, like, just to get it out there too, if you're like, I can't afford to see a doctor because I live in America and things are terrible, I totally get that. If you need advice from a medical health professional, I know that there are, like, I think Facebook groups that are like vetted, like, question, like the only people who can answer are like vetted actual real life doctors, and you can post your questions in there and like doctors will answer. They have a similar thing for mushroom identification and I think snake bites and veterinary questions. So it's actually a really good resource if you're like, I don't really want to go to a doctor and I don't really know what to do. Okay, this is so weird. I don't even see an option to connect to any of my existing streams. That's a weird problem. It's like not even recognizing that I have a stream I can connect to. I don't even know. I've never had that happen before. I genuinely don't know what to do. I do like seeing the chat on the sidebar. But if there's not a way to even... That's so weird. Well, I've been meaning to change overlays for a bit, so that is genuinely really weird. Anyways, I'm not going to worry about that, I guess. So you have to just watch the chat replay, I guess, if you want to check it out. Maybe I'll look more into it later if I get a chance, because that is very strange. Oh my gosh. Tiny toe beans. Look at that. Gaze upon the toe beans. I've caught feelings bad. I was invited to go out for drinks with a little and her daddy I met there, and then her girlfriend joined us, and I was invited to their place for Cards Against Humanity. I'm so happy for you. Okay, I don't know what's happening. I had the same thing happen last night, and I think it's because I am currently taking a mini pill that has like progestin in it. I always forget how to pronounce it. If it's progestin or progesterone or one of those ones. And ever since then, I've been like very emotional whenever someone tells me like a happy like personal life thing. It's like, oh my gosh, you found a person you're hanging out, you're dating. That's so exciting. I'm so happy for you. So if I seem emotional, it's because I'm happy. And that is delightful. The beans, truly. Also a reminder that even if we have therapists or doctors in the chat, they aren't doctors here. Go get checked out by someone on YouTube. Yeah. If the doctor is in the chat, that's different. I'm talking about like vetted groups where like the intentional purpose of them is like doctors that are meant to like ask questions and like in an anonymous way or answer questions anonymously. My brain is in 100% disaster mode. They're both so hot. Well, Rosebud, I wish you the best. I think especially as you're getting into the community and you're meeting people, it can be really hard to feel like you should pump the brakes and like not just like go whole hog into it. But hopefully if they're good people and they're as hot inside as they seem like as they are on the outside, they will be amenable to being like, hey, I really love hanging out. Here are some of my boundaries of where I'm not ready to go yet because I am new and I want to make sure I pace myself just so we don't end up crashing and burning because we flew too close to the sun. Yeah, that's what I'm going with here. Also made me think of you at the party. There were so many femme pups more than kittens or mass pup semen. Yeah, femme pups are like having a moment. There's actually been, I wanted to look into this. There's been like a surge in puppy play stuff on the internet. Like, people are talking about it. I think, like, T-Pain or someone was on... I think he was on a live stream, like a Twitch, or maybe it was a Kick live stream, and he had, like, a puppy hood, and he, like, got really into it. It was fascinating. I'm actually planning to make a video about it, but the puppy era is here. We are having a brat summer. We are having a hot girl summer. We're having a puppy summer. It's all coming together, folks. We're really having a moment, and I love it. But also... I will say this too. I've noticed, I don't know, maybe this has always been a thing. I just didn't notice it before. It seems like a lot of trans folks are also like discovering puppy play and like are talking about it more openly where I as this person can see it. And I also like find that to be fascinating. We're all just embracing our inner puppy and I'm very proud of us. That's my opinion. No lie, I was put on progesterone dose too high for me and I developed full-on PMDD. It is, I honestly think it's more intense than anything with estrogen. Like, most of my side effects are entirely because of progesterone and not because of estrogen if I'm on a birth control. I don't even know how that's possible. But yeah, it's gotta be careful with that. That's another reason to be generally awesome and nice. Some of us have been on a bit of a roller coaster lately. Yeah, I mean, just like spreading the positivity is a great thing to do. And you never know, like, who's like. I don't really believe in like manifesting or anything, but I think like sharing positivity and like boosting people's mood is generally like a positive thing to do. I know some people are sensitive about that. Like, if you've been like struggling with dating or finding a partner, like, it can hurt to hear other people have success, and like that's valid. But also, like, you know, this is what we talk about. I'm talking about polyamory, I'm sorry, but like, you know, in polyamory, this is why we use terms like compersion, because it's a very real experience to be able to feel happiness from somebody else's happiness, and then you feel better because your mood is boosted, and then we can all revel in each other's success and hope that leads to our own success. I just need to talk about that. I know a lot of trans women who are into a thing called puppy girl, but they insist it isn't pet play or a kink at all. Really? Okay, because I'm seeing it on my timeline, and I just assumed they were talking about puppy play because they posted a photo that, like, definitely was in, like, puppy play gear, and they were posing next to somebody who had, like a Westboro Baptist Church type sign, and it was funny because it was, you know, they were, I don't know if they were like counter protesting or what the story was behind that, but it's amazing how many people like reinvent kink and then go, this isn't a kink thing. It's like, well, you're wearing a hood from a kink store and you're wearing a harness from a kink store and you're using terms like a kink store and like kinky people, and, like, I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but, like, how many things have to be in common before it's just a different version of the same thing? I guess it's, I didn't know that progesterone sensitivity was a thing, but human bodies are weird, so I believe it. Can confirm in my trans community, puppy play has been popular for a while, but I agree people feel more open about it now. Yeah, like, I don't think it's always been a thing. I mean, you know, like pet play, I think is something, like, especially for an area of kink, because it's like there's costuming, you're taking on a different role. I totally see why it's like maybe more able to be an open and safe place for people that are experimenting with gender stuff or like trying out new pronouns. Because like when you're a puppy, who, like, you know, you could be a cute girl or a cute little boy puppy, and like who cares, you know, what your everyday actual identity is like. You get a sort of a room to explore with that, and I think that's maybe part of the reason why. And also just like anything that's involving like joy and fun and transformation, I think is something that is like popular with a lot of people. And also pet play in general is just like popular with people. It's a pretty accessible kink. It doesn't really require you buy any fancy furniture or take a bunch of classes. It's very, you know, you pick up and you just have fun with it. It's not really like, you know, I'm not sure what a card game is that's like easy to pick up. Maybe it's more like Cards Against Humanity instead of like chess, maybe. I know it's a terrible analogy, but yeah. Trans puppy girl is a new cat girl. I'm kind of here for it. Oh yeah, that's true. That the cat girl was like a whole thing. Maybe got memed too hard, and now they're not doing that anymore. I'm finally getting back into my DS dynamic with my husband now that our kiddo is 16 months old, and I'm starting to feel like a real human again. Congratulations, Doc McD. That is really good to hear. I know, especially for like new parents and parents of little kids, you like time can go by in a blur, and it's a fantastic time, and like you know, it's those moments are really wonderful, but suddenly you blink and it's like, holy crap, it's been 2 years and I don't have my kink identity anymore, and like what's happening. And that can also be something that's really nice to be able to get back to when you have more of a routine and feel like yourself again. So that's really great. Awesome. Love that. Okay. I should probably get into some questions. So let's go ahead and do that. By the way, if you want me to answer your question, the best way you can do that is by using a super chat. You can either do that through YouTube or through Streamlabs. I think I figured out the Streamlabs issue. We'll see. YouTube's great. YouTube's a great option. And then it'll show up on screen, and then I'll read it right away. And yeah, that is what you need to know. So there you go. Hi, Evie. Hope you're having a great night. I am having a fantastic night. Thank you. It's honestly been a whirlwind of a day. Last night was crazy. I was up really late, and then I woke up early today, and then like I got stuck in traffic. It was a whole thing. It was really intense. Does anyone have any ideas of, I'm assuming, what to cane with instead of bamboo? So, because if anyone's wondering, like, why wouldn't you want to cane with bamboo? So, bamboo is something that you will see people caning with. Some people do use it. However, it's generally not recommended because of the way that it can break can actually be quite dangerous. And also, like, the quality and thickness of bamboo can vary quite a lot, and other reasons, but essentially, like, bamboo is not a very durable material to be able to play with, because the analogy I like to make is it's like, you know, in The Lion King when the hyenas end up like going into the giant, like, I don't know if they're like acacia thorns or what they are. They go into the giant pit of thorns and then they get thorns all in their butt. That's what playing with bamboo can do to your butt if it goes wrong. So if you don't want to recreate that scene, there are other options that are probably better. So for natural materials for bamboo, the most popular one is rattan. That does require some maintenance because it is a reed, and you have to oil it. I don't play with natural material canes, so I don't really have a lot of experience with that. Spankos, if you're looking for information on like caning, spankos and people that are disciplinarians or into corporal punishment, so many resources online for like how to like maintain your natural canes. People have very strong opinions about this, and there's lots of variety within rattan as well. There's different thicknesses. There's ones that are like burnished on the outside and are like dark. There's ones that are really smooth, some that have more prominent ridges. There's a variety in there. You might like the ones that have more of a ridge on them if you like that from the bamboo, but those actually are like safer to play with as a natural fiber. I'm saying fiber, but like a natural substance maybe compared to bamboo. When I do caning, though, I tend not to use natural materials. So I don't know why I have like a Dutch angle on this like dog camera right now, but where is the dog? Where is she? Oh, she went into like she's sniffing around in the kitchen. So we'll see what are you doing, doggo? Sniffing around back there. But yeah, so oh no, she just came back. What are you doing, dog? Anyways, so non-natural materials, that is mostly what I use when I do caning. There's so many options. I would say the most popular ones would be acrylic, and I've never heard anyone say this out loud before. I think it's Delrin. It's Delrin. And you also see some weird ones out there. You see like PFTE. You will see like people that have like coated. There's another one that's like a coated type of cane. What is that called? Because I never. Like coated fiberglass. You'll see coated fiberglass canes. I don't play with coated fiberglass. I was gonna see like acetal sometimes, but the most popular is going to be acrylic and Delrin. They have some differences in sensation. I personally like Delrin if I'm going to be using a cane because it can come in the color black, so of course. But there can be, I would say, acrylic is a little bit, especially the thinner ones have a little bit more of a surface sting to them, but they can come in a rainbow of colors, and so people like that because that's fun to be able to play with, whereas Delaware is a little bit more plain, and so people like to have dressy cane options. I'm not sure which there's also somebody has PVC coated cane, and like glass fiber tends to be like smaller, like very whippy canes. But those ones are like more advanced. They can shatter. So if you're looking for an alternative to bamboo, I probably wouldn't go with that one. I'm not sure between Delrin and acrylic which one's the most similar to bamboo because they're pretty different, to be honest. But those ones are like popular options. And then my favorite option for canes actually, in terms of natural materials, you will also see people that have wooden canes that are made from like solid wood. Those ones are trickier because they can also like shatter and break just because of I don't know about woodworking, but there is like a company or two that makes like higher quality hardwood canes. Those ones can also break though. So if you want to have wood, you should probably just buy a paddle. But you do make wooden canes. My favorite material, though, is actually metal for caning. It's not even really like a cane at that point because there's no swish to it. It doesn't. You use it more like a baton and like a cane. But I really like copper and aluminum or aluminium canes. because they can come in a wide variety of diameters. They're really easy to clean, and they actually produce more of a thuddy impact as you get into the bigger diameters. You can get ones actually that are pretty small, and will have a similar level, or even like a really intense kind of searing, deep muscle sting to them, which I think a lot of people enjoy, not having just it be on the surface, but it kind of like digs down into the skin a little bit more, and you get a little bit more of a bruise effect from that, I think, for a lot of people. So those are sort of like an overview of the different cane materials, but there's so many people. Etsy still actually has quite a lot of canes on it, because it's not, I don't know, it hasn't been hit by like the adult product scanner yet. Lots of people on FetLife make canes. So many options. I think I maybe have some linked in the resources down below, but I don't play with canes a whole lot. My main use of canes is I get like thick aluminum canes that are like not really even canes. And then outside of that, I vary, like unless somebody has canes, I don't tend to play with them a whole lot. So those are my cane opinions, in case you wanted to know about that for some reason. Well, actually it was because somebody asked a question, but there we go. Okay. Is there a way, because I want to make sure I'm like keeping up to date with the chat. Hubby just cringed with the mention of a metal cane. That sounds brutal. Honestly, especially because that's aluminum, it's very light. Like compared to like if you had like stainless steel or something, it's not as intense as it sounds. Actually, I could probably... No, I probably can't, actually. YouTube's very censor happy. But I have one that's like actually like a really short one that's like sort of like a bat. And it's great. It's like... I would say, honestly, if you're using it, even at like a medium intensity, it's kind of like a really intense, firm massage. It's not anything too wild. But like you can get really thin ones, and you can get going with them pretty hard. So like, yeah, you can definitely like get intense with them, but they don't necessarily have to be intense. There's a lot of gradient there for sure. Metal rods are not hard to find. I mean, I guess. Also, I mean, yeah, you can go to Home Depot, I guess, and like get DIY stuff. Yeah. We have used PEX pipe as a cane. It was awesome. Great lines. I don't know what PEX pipe is. Or PEX pipe. I don't know if it's pronounced like... Oh, yeah. Okay. Honestly, kinksters and hardware stores have the most symbiotic relationship. And also it comes in like red and blue, so why not? Yeah, a lot of people like canes for the mark leaving ability. I'm not sure which like leaves the most marks. Honestly, anything really thin. Anything really thin you can get up to like a good speed with that's a little bit whippy, you're probably going to get marks from. If that's like one of the reasons you like caning. Okay, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to have my chat pulled up on my phone so then I can just like keep track of where I am on my computer and then have like the live chat right there. Okay. Canes are really interesting because they're so like ubiquitous in corporal punishment and like a lot of like traditional SM scenes and like traditional like SM erotica and pornography, but you don't really see it that much in actual like scenes in a dungeon. Like I mean maybe it's just where I live and like everywhere is different, but I don't really see canes like a full-on just a caning scene. There's like one guy. There's like one guy who's really into caning. It's most people don't have it as like a random thing, you know, in their toy bag they pull out occasionally. Okay, I'm gonna use this to keep track of the where the live chat currently is. And then we'll go from there. Metallic canes just made me think of thin swords like a foil. Oh yeah, honestly I'm shocked no one's used like I mean, maybe somebody has and I haven't seen it. At least not widely used. I haven't seen very many people use fencing instruments as impact play toys. Maybe they're too fragile? Definitely a possibility, though. There are for sure a lot of variants on how to use canes. The material makes a difference, of course, but even with classic rattan, there's a lot you can do. Yeah, like there's actually on YouTube still, there's some there's just some older guy who like has a whole series of videos on like caning techniques, and he has like 30 of them. He's like, you can do this, and it's like you can like draw across the skin, you can like tap, you can like do like a J curve, like there's all kind of like it's like robo techniques. It's if you love canes and you want to know every possible way to use a cane, you want to have 101 ways to use a cane, that man has figured it out. And as far as I know, if you just look up BDSM, cane, or caning, how to, like, you'll find his videos. I don't remember what the channel name is, but it's a really fun one. Just seeing that man living his best caning life. He has like a demo bottom and everything. I am shocked that it's allowed on YouTube, because I know if I posted those videos, I would instantly get a community guideline strike. But he probably flew under the radar because he's not actually like a full-time content creator. He's not monetized. He's not a partner. So he's just doing whatever he feels like. Just doing whatever his little caning heart desires. Yeah. Not too long ago, I had an opportunity to say hello at a convention, but I was too nervous to bother you, so hello. Well, hello, Robin. Thank you for saying hi. If you do see me at a convention, I'm pretty much always happy to say hi, unless I am literally in the middle of a scene. Even if I'm with other people, it's probably fine to, like, come say hi. I am planning now to make it easier for people to be incentivized to say hi to me when they're nervous. I'm going to be carrying like a fanny pack with stickers, so people who come say hi to me can get a sticker, and it's going to be like a "Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?" but it's going to be like "Where in the world is Evie Lupine?" That's the idea I have in my head, so hopefully that'll be fun. It'll help people feel like they can say hi, because I know I've had more people come up to me to be like, "Hi, so my partner really likes your videos and she wants to say hi, but she's nervous." I have that more, if not like most of the time. Like, people are like, they're like submissive partners, like nervous to say hi, so the dom comes over and is like, "She's really nervous, she's like over there, she has the pink ears on, like she'd love it if you said hi, it would make her whole convention." And you go, hey, recruit someone if you need help. I'm happy to have that happen. It's just funny, like, how common it is. I've always been told that since I was probably in, like, I don't know, 6th grade, that I have an intimidating aura, and I don't know why. Because, like, I like a couple things. I like my dog. I like buffalo chicken. And I like cute small things in general. Like, I'm not that serious of a person, but I guess, I don't know, maybe it's the black hair. But I didn't have black hair when I was in middle school. I wasn't allowed to dye my hair. But you know, people say things. In BDSM parties, do people have sex in a scene where people can see it? Is it more intimate? That really depends on the dungeon you go to. Earlier on in my kink journey, the dungeons that I first went to, you would occasionally see sex, but it would mostly be at, like, the very end of the party, or it would be, like, over in, like, the corner in the aftercare area, you kind of behind a curtain, where, like, maybe you could see people, but if you saw people having sex, it was mostly, like, oral sex, or, something at the very end of a scene, like, way farther into the night. And especially at first, when I was, like, for the first, like, year or two I was in the scene, I, like, never saw sex happen at dungeons. Like, you would see genitals out, and you would see people with, like, chastity belts on, and, like, hanging weights from their penises. You'd see all different kinds of genital things going on, but not sex. Whereas in the last couple of years, some of the venues I've been to more recently, you definitely will see sex at them, like, just straight up regular PIV. You'll see anal, you see all kinds of stuff. It's hard to say how common it is, like, how out of every 10 scenes, how many are just a sex act. I don't know. Probably, depending on where you go, maybe like 5% up to like 25 to 50%. Generally speaking, if it's a venue that has a bar, if it's like mostly a swingers venue, if they advertise themselves as like a sex club or a sex dungeon, that's like in their advertising, it's much more likely that you're going to see sex there. But other places in the country, like in California, like a lot of dungeons don't have any sex at all because it's not allowed. I don't know how many states have rules about this or how honestly any of this works. I'm not a lawyer, but there's actually a lot of states where at dungeons you explicitly cannot have any sex. So what's maybe common in Oregon or in Washington, maybe it's the case in like California, Utah, Illinois, Ohio. I don't know what they got going on there. So it very much depends on where you're at, the people who run it, because different dungeons attract different people, and some are going to be more sex focused, some have no sex, some aren't allowed to have sex. It varies a lot. So that's sort of the long way of saying it depends. That's more or less what you need to know. In Germany, caning isn't super common either, but not exactly rare either. Closer to the spanking scene than the hedonistic kink scene or fetishy BDSM. Yeah, I'd say that's probably true. The closer you get to like spankos, corporal punishment, fetish stuff, and like pro-doming especially, you'll see a lot more caning. But I don't know. I'm very curious what the German scene is like. What do they got going over there in Germany? I've heard good things. But also maybe I feel like Berlin has like a reputation for being kinky, like just amongst vanilla people. Didn't have a convenient top to step up for me at the time. Yeah, maybe I should wear. I don't know. Maybe I should wear something that has like I should get like a dog vest, and it should say like I'm approachable and have like a happy dog face on it or something. Just because I hear from people they're worried about like bothering me, unless I'm giving a talk, I'm in the middle of a class, or I'm in the middle of a scene. It's probably fine. Also, I'm hungry and I have chili roasted pistachios. So anyone who's ever wanted to see me eat on camera, congratulations. You win. You now get to see me eating on camera. You are just, I know, hi. You can't have these, honey. These are spicy ones. The only human foods I allow her to regularly have are cheese, and regularly I mean like once a week at the most. Are plain pistachios, peanuts, and cheese. And she goes nuts for pistachios. But you can't, these ones are spicy, honey. You can't have these ones. You can't have these ones, darling. I would literally eat a whole bag of these in one sitting. There's another brand that makes a buffalo one that's super good. And they also have like a jalapeno lime one that's also really good. A surprising amount of my diet is pistachios. All right, I know I've been like going earlier in the questions than I normally mean to, so I'm going to back up here for a second. I'm going to go back to the earlier questions so people don't feel like they are left out. Recommendations, it says and, I don't see a first one. Recommendations for resources on biting, differences for the goal of leaving a mark or inflicting pain. I do have an older video about biting, where you talk about like biting in claws or something. It's like a couple of years old. I think it's pretty good information wise, but I do have a video on it. I'm just really quickly getting that out there. Yeah, I don't know why your message is singled out. That is weird. Is the sound okay for everyone else? Is something wrong with the sound? I don't see anything that's doubled. I don't see anyone saying anything about the sound. So it sounds like the sound is fine. Zoom Care is local to the Pacific Northwest, and they can't see anybody that is in the same state they're in. Boo! Well, I hope maybe other places have a thing that's like Zoom Care. Hi, Evie. Hope you had a good week. Thank you, Angela. I was wondering what the best way to find people who are into more niche kinks, i.e. or e.g., the ones you can't do in most venues like Fire or something. So for niche kinks, I mean, some of them actually have like pretty active forums still. Like, honestly, I swear to God, the people that are keeping forums alive are like kinky people and like furries. Like, the only reasons any forums exist are because of that. So, like people that are really into like crying, latex, or like body modification stuff. Like, there's forums for that. And not really forums, but also on FetLife too, there are groups. A lot of FetLife groups are very niche. So you have ones that are about like specifically like ice branding or hypnosis for behavior modification. Like, you get real niche. And that can actually be a good way of meeting other people because they're on FetLife. And you can see each other's profiles, and, you know, it's more active. Now, it depends on how niche you're getting. If you're talking about like Fireplay, you're going to find lots of people. If you're talking about, I want to do role play where I pretend to be a turkey that gets roasted in the oven for Thanksgiving, that's going to be a lot harder to find, and I don't know where you would find that in a group. But like Fireplay for sure, and also like there are dungeons that allow Fireplay. So you will see people actually that are like teaching classes on Fireplay, and if you do want to learn about it, there are people who do virtual events on learning Fireplay. I would say they're probably not as good as in-person ones. I feel like with Fireplay, it's like one of the ones you should probably learn in person, but just to get a sense of the basics and some maybe, you know, basic safety information, get a better sense of what you'd actually be experiencing, just going to a class online as a start is a good place to go. But for the outside of like some ones that are not okay because of FetLife policies, a lot of the niche kinks have some kind of representation on FetLife. Hi, Evie. Have you heard of Soft White Underbelly on YouTube? They've interviewed a few kinksters and lifestylers, wondering if you would ever do a reaction to some of them. I actually have a reaction to a Soft White Underbelly interview. It is a pet player. I did it a couple months ago, and yeah, I think it's called, I don't know, it's like, something about the puppy interview or something. I don't remember what I said, but puppy and interview are probably somewhere in the title, or pup maybe. So I have reacted to one. I've seen quite a lot of them. I haven't always thought that they were suitable for a reaction because, one, they're quite long. So if I want to do a reaction to a 45-minute long interview, that's going to be like an hour and a half long video, you know, to just get through everything. And oftentimes the stories get very dark and they're very personal, and it feels, it's not as like lighthearted as like typical reaction content when somebody's talking about their, you know, bad home life. But there is actually, my favorite one on Soft White Underbelly is a submissive who gets interviewed. And I wish I remembered the name of the lady, but it's a submissive interview and it's just her. She doesn't have a dom with her or anything. And she is like the best representation of, if you want to know what the average kinkster in a scene is like, she's like everyone I've met in the kink community. Not everyone, but like submissive women, you know, that are like between 25 and 45. Like, she's a really good representation of that energy. And I've thought about doing a reaction to her interview before. So I might, you know, I like mixing in kind of more lighthearted, fun videos, and I really like that one. So, and I think it's a good representation. I think it's, if you're maybe trying to explain to a partner, you know, what being submissive is about, or why you like kink, that might be a good interview to show them, and maybe do a reaction would be a good way to bring some awareness to it. But I have sort of like mixed feelings about Soft White Underbelly as a creator, and like what they're doing, because it's such a mix of, I mean, the only way I can think to say it is like trauma porn of like, you know, like it's both trying to represent these people that don't normally have their voices heard, but then you can't really escape the fact that like he is making money, you know, interviewing people that are, you know, sharing their stories. I don't know, like if they're getting any money back from what he's making. It's very, some of it I don't like for that reason. And also, like, from the kinky people I've seen interview, even though he's been interviewing different kinky folk for like years at this point, it's like he doesn't, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. Like, he tends to like go back to asking the same questions a lot, or like he acts like he's never heard a concept before. And I don't know if that's like intentional or like what's happening there, but he can't seem to wrap his head around the fact that like kink isn't sexual for a lot of people, and that it's not just like a fetish thing or something they do for money. And he doesn't seem to be able to like fully let that sink in. And I find that a little strange, but you know, maybe that's just me reading into it. Yeah, there's a lot. I don't know if he has a category on his channel for just the BDSM interviews, but he has a number of them. Means a lot. Thank you. I sometimes get worried about the groups because the whole don't meet people from the internet thing was dropped into everyone in the very early days of the internet. Oh yeah, I was definitely of that generation too. I think every year I was in school between like 6th grade and 11th grade, we had like almost like sort of a Scared Straight type seminar where it was stranger danger on the internet. Like don't post a photo, with your school building in the background because a stranger can tell where you live based on like some obscure thing in the background or whatever, or like, they can tell what school you go to because of like the colors on your like school sweater or something. So I definitely got that a lot as well. And I get like not wanting to meet people from the internet, but actually I'm probably going to be filming a video about this weekend, revisiting my like actual, I don't think I've ever like sat down and like told my whole like my first sort of experiences in kink. The first like month or two I was in kink. I actually met someone through the internet that ended up being my dom for a number of months. And how we met was I had RSVP'd to a rope event we were both going to. And then they saw that I was single, and then they were obviously single. So they messaged me and were like, hey, do you want to meet up? And at the time I was still in university. So it was a small college town. It was relatively easy to meet people. A lot of the people that were on FetLife in my area, because it was based on area, it wasn't like, I wasn't meeting people from like Turkey or whatever. I felt more comfortable meeting people out in public because, again, it was a small town. I knew a lot of people from college. It didn't feel as scary as like, being in Seattle and like meeting some random guy somewhere. Like it felt more contained. So we met up and actually we really hit it off, and they were exactly how they came across in their profile. And then they were my dom for a couple months. And that's a whole other story. But yeah, that was my time at my first dom. It's through FetLife, and it worked out more or less. So there you go. And I would say, like, there are a lot of people in there that are who they say they are. Obviously, always be skeptical, meet people in public. It's really good if you can go to a munch. If anyone says some shit that's like, oh, I don't go to those kinds of parties, I don't believe in going to dungeons, I just feel like they dampen the mood. I feel like dungeons are below me. Like, if they give that kind of energy, that's a red flag to me. But it is, like, I think it can be like a suitable way to meet people if you do have a niche kink, because you can find people that are in your area. But just, be cautious about it. Don't give out your home address. Don't give them your phone number. You can, like, I like Telegram. I think there's like WhatsApp, there's Signal. There's ways you can message people even outside of FetLife without necessarily revealing your name, your phone number, any sort of identifying information. If you don't want to do that, you don't feel safe doing that yet. And hopefully people that are good people will respect that. So that's how I'd probably go about it. And then again, also there's like virtual stuff, virtual classes that are obviously lower risk than meeting someone in real life to try something. But, if you have a niche kink and that's what's going to make you happy, like the easiest way to do it is through a specialty group. I tend to find Taboo Science and other people's lives to be better podcasts in that realm. Not perfect, but better. Good to know. Good to know. As a queer person interested in kink, I'm pretty afraid of online dating hookups. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't carry on a fully online relationship. I'm not necessarily saying have a, like, especially if you want to do like Fireplay. You're really going to do that. How do you virtually do Fireplay? Probably not really an easy thing to do for most people. So I'm not necessarily saying get into a full online relationship. I think if you can get to a point where you're talking and maybe, you get to meet in person because they live near you and you can get a FetLife name from them. It's really also, if you want to do this, even if you're not really finding people because of how niche your kinks are in your local community, being connected to your local community can be great, because a lot of people that are like bad actors, like, I don't know if it's like a common thing per se, but there, people that are niche kinks that are maybe just like, they only respond to people who are like posting ads for, finding someone who wants to do a certain kink with them. Like, that is worth being able to talk to people about, like, hey, I'm meeting up with so-and-so, does anybody know anything about them? And one, having other people who just know you're doing a thing at what time and where And also somebody who can say, oh yeah, that person used to go by this name and they actually have like a bad reputation and this is what happened. You get more information that way. I don't want to scare anyone out of like experiencing kink because of that, but it's just, you know, be cautious, meet in public, play in public, don't reveal any personal information that you would regret somebody that's a stranger knowing, and take your own transportation. I have whole videos where I've talked about like how to be safe meeting people in kink, and there's ways to certainly reduce your risk, if not make it totally safe. Hi from Kay and Tattoo. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Tom. Thank you. Soft Underbelly also has some interviews with detransitioners, but from what I could tell, the detransitioners seem to be on the side of blaming trans people as a whole. Oh, like they're the kinds of people that are like, actually, I shouldn't have been allowed to transition because I regret it and no one should ever have been allowed to. And it's, oh, yeah. I guess he's sort of that, like, I'm radically politically neutral and I'm gonna interview anyone about anything because everyone deserves to have their story shared. Like that's the angle, which, like, you know, I understand why that's a thing that someone will want to do, but I also think that sometimes we should be careful about the ideas that we're platforming and how. But I'm not gonna necessarily get fully into that. All right, anyways, let me get into some other questions. Thank you so much. I have been loving all these questions today. These are fantastic. I don't know if this is just me, but I feel like FetLife's terms of service make it difficult to call out bad actors. Oh no, that's totally, you're right. Especially by name specifically. That's why meeting people in real life and talking to them and getting to know people to be able to have like a vetting network is so important. There are definitely attempts at like local online versions of that that work to varying degrees of success, but they're only as good as the people who run them. And not everyone who runs an online vetting network is actually qualified to do so or is like an ethical or good person themselves. Like if you appoint yourself, I am the online vetter of the Chicago BDSM community. Not that I'm saying anything about Chicago. This is just a random example. If you anoint yourself, I am the vetter of the Chicago BDSM community. Come to me if you have questions. That is a role that probably does not always attract the most ethical people, in my opinion. I think it can be something that a very good person runs. It can also be something that somebody with a very particular agenda puts themselves in charge of. There's a couple of other vetting groups that are for more specific kinks that I know are really good. But not anything that's like a general, like a regional one, because that ends up there's like weird power dynamics with people wanting to, make themselves the king of the Chicago BDSM scene, which I find to be strange, but yeah. But yeah, it does make it harder to call out bad actors. But, that's from what I have heard, it's for a good reason. Like, it's because they've either in the past have had experience with this or they've been like legally told to be afraid of this. If they allow people to name people specifically and like call out posts without like an option to have those names be removed by the person who's in the subject of the writings, that opens them up to like legal liability, and they don't really have the financial support or the legal support to be able to weather even a completely floppy, completely meaningless, like no real weight behind it lawsuit of that size. Like not FetLife, but I've seen events in venues be shut down because of the long time that it takes to get through a legal battle when somebody is like trying to do a good thing and they name a specific name in public out loud. And even if they're totally telling the truth to the best of their knowledge and they have good intentions, that doesn't matter when the consequences, like a rich asshole deciding to sue you because they want you to shut up about what a bad person they are. Even if their claim has no merit whatsoever, unless you are living in a state that has really good laws to protect against those kinds of, silencing lawsuits, you're going to have to contend with them on some level, and that's an expense that a lot of people cannot afford. So, yeah, it's the unfortunate. I'm not sure what the perfect solution for that is. Because I think also, like, you know, people being outed and named legally by their legal names on FetLife, like having that be an open free-for-all on FetLife probably isn't a good practice either. And then I think FetLife doesn't want to make itself an arbiter of like, well, when is it doxing versus when is it like a well-intentioned call-out post. And sometimes one can be masked as the other. And you know, I get that it's complicated. This is why there's not like a FetLife alternative. This is why FetLife is like the one that's left standing, because people look at these issues and they think, oh, I could do better. I could do something different. And then they try, and then either they never get up off the ground, or they slowly discover whatever their social media website has discovered, which is like, you have to have some kind of moderation. You have to have some rules about what can be posted on the website. Like, it can't be a free-for-all. You can't have it be like Freedom USA, hashtag marketplace of ideas. You know, like, you gotta have some restrictions happening, or you're very quickly going to be shut down, or credit card processors won't work with you, or you're not going to be available in certain countries, and, you know, so on and so forth. But yeah. Anyways, I don't know how I got off on that, but FetLife is problematic in many ways, but it's sort of like it's like the best worst option. Like, certainly there are ways to design FetLife that would be better, but there would be trade-offs that would make it worse in other ways. So gotta pick your poison with that one. We started building a house this week, Heidi. That's so fantastic. Congratulations. Building a house. That's a big old thing. Wow. Look at that. Building a whole house. Who would have guessed? Yeah. Like testosterone. Okay. Random music question. Oh, random music recommendation. But do you like anything by Chappelle Roan? I've heard the one song that went really viral. I heard the one song that went really viral, and I thought, wow, she has a really great voice. And then I didn't listen to anything else. So I'm open to enjoying Chappelle Roan. I believe, from what I've heard, Chappelle Roan is a demisexual queer woman, and I love the fact that we could have a demi woman who's like a really big pop star. I think that's fantastic. But I don't know any of her songs by name. So I think that's the one that's like I Told You So. I think that's the one that I've heard. But I don't dislike it. I think mostly what I've seen is people being very invasive about her life, and like, I think she recently posted something on TikTok that was like, please stop harassing me, even if you love me. It's too much. That's the social media age. Every year celebrities are accessible 24/7, and people don't realize that they're, you know, every drop, every tweet, it all contributes to a tidal wave of stuff that's being thrown at them, and that can be really overwhelming. Getting sued usually means the other person is ways around anti-slap laws, like displacing to federal court. I've had a 9-month frivolous lawsuit, and it cost me $135,000 to settle illegal bills. Yeah. And that's even talking in like the United States, I'm assuming. Like in Canada, where I've also seen this happen, even in places that have relatively good like anti-slap laws, they do not... there is still, like, just the length of the legal process itself is expensive, even if you're just trying to get it tossed out. Because, like, even to get to the stage where it's getting tossed out, like, definitively, like, it takes time to get there. It's not just, like, you walk in and go, this actually is bullshit, Your Honor. Like, it's not, and they go, oh, okay, never mind then. Like, that's not, they have to have a process, and that process gets expensive. Especially, in the specific case I'm thinking of, I think there were like multiple defendants, and they were all like, they didn't attack the organization. They attacked the individual board members that were part of the organization. And so collectively for all of them, it got very expensive. But also this happened like 10 years ago. So I'm probably misremembering like what happened, but that's what I remember. I'm sure somebody has a blog post somewhere with the details of it I could look up if I really wanted to know, but geez. Are neurodivergent people more likely to be into kink than neurotypical people? More likely. Honestly, probably, yeah. I want to be careful of making it sound like a causal thing where, like, people that are neurodivergent like kink. Because anytime you feel like, it's like saying, like, goth girls are kinky, or women with red hair like kink, or Asian women. Like, it's not about a category of people liking kink. No. I think a lot of people that are neurodivergent enjoy kink, both for practical reasons, like the clear boundaries and the rules and our consent practices and things like that. And they also like it because they also just happen to like kink. And there's a lot of things that for neurodivergent people, I imagine, like the sensory experience of kink can be really fulfilling. Like I know someone where they're neurodivergent, and like for them, like kink is a really big, like a sensory processing thing and like a dopamine thing. And it actually like helps, doing kink stuff helps them regulate. So, it's common that people will be into kink and also be neurodivergent. I'm not sure if it's the majority of our community. I think I've said before is probably like 25%, which I think, I don't know how many people have ADHD. I don't know how it feels like it's pretty common. I don't know if it's comparable to that, but it's a lot. Like of some kind of neurodivergence, depending on how you define what that is. If you're including things like PTSD or TBIs or other things that some people disagree about what constitutes being neurodivergent or not. How wide your definition is going to give a different percentage there, but I would say comfortably it's probably at least like a quarter of people. But I think it also depends on age too, and like what kinks you're into specifically. But it's not because you should ever assume that people who are neurodivergent are kinky. Please, dear God, don't do that. Don't embarrass me like that. Do not come. That's my just disclaimer in case anyone thinks I'm saying that. What are you listening to lately? Any music recommendations? Also, have you heard the latest Marilyn Manson song? It's a bit of an off-topic question. I know he's making music again. I've not listened to Marilyn Manson. I'm planning eventually to do another like Marilyn Manson update video, but there's been so much that's happened. It's kind of like a really big project to put together, so I haven't done that yet. If I just had a month where I could only make one YouTube video, I could get it done, but that's not how I've set up my channel, so I have to pace things a little bit more. But as far as what I'm listening to lately, I'm not even really listening to music. I've been listening to audiobooks. I feel like a grandma. I'm listening to audiobooks. Yeah. No. I actually have been listening on audiobook to a fantasy series that I read the first 2 books of years ago and then never finished because every book was 800 pages long. And I will love it if there's any kinky people here who know this series, but it's by Jacqueline Carey, and it's called Cushiel's. It has a couple different like collective names for the trilogy, but like usually it's like Cushiel's Legacy. But it starts with Cushiel's Dart, and then Cushiel's Chosen, and then Cushiel's Avatar is the third one, I think. And I'm almost done with the third one. I'm literally 91% of the way through the third book. And it's been a delight to revisit the first 2 books on audiobook, because reading, would it be 1,600 pages just to get to the point where I'm seeing new content again? And, like, I would never have the time to read that much. So it's been really refreshing to revisit that. And that's been like the last month, I think. The last month of listening has been listening basically only to that. I haven't even really been listening to music. It's basically been either that or like podcasts, like YouTube videos. Not really any kind of music. I go through phases where like I don't really listen to music that much, and I like listen mostly to YouTube, and then it sort of goes back and forth. But that's mostly what my ears have been consuming. And it's I will say, so kinky people, if you would like I love 800-page chonker books. I like them too. I just don't have enough time to read them. So it's like big chunky books are great, but like especially when you've already read it once, I'm not gonna reread that shit. Unless I'm on vacation for like a month on a deserted island, then I'll reread it, but not before then. But Cushiel's Dart is interesting because it actually was recommended to me by a friend I had in the scene, and there's there's kind of some kink elements to it. It's not like Interview with a Vampire. It's like not, or like anything by Anne Rice. It's not that level of explicit kink, I don't think. But there is like the main character of the whole series is somebody that is essentially God touched, and like cursed really, to experience pain as pleasure. And they take that to some pretty interesting places logically. Like I appreciate it because the author is not afraid to ask the question and then answer the question, what is the farthest place that you could go if you made a character that is required because of their biology to get pleasure from pain? Not just like fun consensual pain, not just like sexy pain, but like having their skin flayed off. So it gets pretty intense. A lot of people drop out in like the middle part of the third book because it gets pretty, just as a warning for people, it does get intense if you read it. But honestly, it's like, I didn't think it was that bad. But also I am the queen bus driver, so I come up with terrible shit every day for people to do for fun. So maybe I'm not the best gauge of what intensity is for that, just for ideas on a piece of paper. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's an interesting world, and it's very it's very unique. It's a very unique voice. It's actually like an epic fantasy book. So if you're into fantasy books, but it's not too heavy on the fantasy. If you're not into like complicated magic systems, if you don't want to read about like 30 different species of like creatures that don't exist on Earth, like it's fantasy in the sense that like the gods are very present in the world, but there's not like a lot of like magic or anything. Like it's mostly like an alternative history book, more so than like fantasy, I would say. But yeah. There's 2 other Warrior fans in here. Listen, I'm assuming you don't mean it was the basketball team. I think reading Warriors is a requirement to be a pet player. I don't know anyone who's a pet player that did not read the Warriors books. I love the Warriors books. I read like the first 3 series they did, and then I dropped off after that. But I was like, the librarian bought more Warriors books for the library system because I kept reading them. I was personally responsible for Warriors books being in circulation at my local library because I kept checking them out. Oh gosh, those books are so good. It's foundational. It's foundational to the experience of pet play. Oh, yeah. If you like Berserk, this will be nothing. If you can handle Berserk, that's actually one of the things that I really like about the franchise is the main country that everything is centered on. The precept that the gods give their people is their first and most important pact is love as thou wilt. Like violating consent is considered like sinning against all of the gods, and like gods are real, so if you like sin against them, they will literally smite your ass. So like consent is extremely important. And to not follow consent is a very big deal. And like there are other countries and tribes that do not follow that rule because they have different gods that don't have the same laws for their people. But at least in the main world and in the primary focus of the book series, there's a really big emphasis on consent, which could it be better done now? Yeah, but for when these books are being written in like 1997, they're very forward thinking about consent in a way that you don't get from a lot of other books. There's some weird stuff in there where it's like, well, can like they really consent because like all these things are like contributing to them wanting to do this act with this person. So is it really freely given? There's a like not necessarily as much of a conversation about like circumstance and coercion, but there's not any, there's not like gratuitous scenes of sexual assault like every 3rd chapter, Man, I roleplay warrior cats with people at recess in elementary school. I really should have figured out I'd be a kid player sooner. Yeah, I did that a little bit with Lion King because I don't think Warriors had quite come out yet when I was that young. When I was in like kindergarten, 1st grade, definitely did some Lion King roleplay. That was like my main thing. I was always trying to get the neighbor kids to do like animal roleplay shit with me. That was yeah. Got bullied for that. Stopped doing it. Probably for the best, to be honest. Bullying worked in that situation. I have never read anything with Berserk. I've never watched any of the anime that's come out about Berserk. The only thing I know about it is that there's a fair amount of sexual assault in it, and for that reason, I'm not like super interested in it as a series. But I'll probably end up reading it eventually. During the early days of YouTube, my best friend would show me all the warrior AMVs that her online friends made. I somehow missed that. So I think maybe unusual for people that are Warriors fans, and that I was never part of any fandom online for it. I never went to any forums. I never made an OC. I never watched any Warrior AMVs. I never saw any of that at all. I even on DeviantArt, I didn't even engage on DeviantArt with any of that stuff. Because I think I was a little bit older when I started to, access that part of the internet, and I was out of my Warriors phase by then. But so I missed a lot of that stuff, and then I found out later when I was older that existed, and it blew my mind. Now I did definitely do other roleplay forums, but they were not based on any like particular franchise, so they were not cat based. Honestly, the craziest thing that probably ever happened to me is like somebody that I knew from an online roleplay forum that I was in when I was in high school went to the same college as me, and I didn't know it until we met each other during the first week of freshman year because we lived on the same dorm floor. Completely unplanned, didn't realize it was going to happen, but we were like part of the same roleplay forum, and then we met each other in real life. It was crazy. Like, what are the odds of that? Of like the 400 people that are on this one roleplay forum. And then not only did we go to the same school, not only were we the same age, but we're in the same dorm on the same floor, like 5 doors away from each other. Crazy. Did not actually get along in real life. Turns out we were not actually like meant to be friends. We didn't like dislike each other. We actually didn't have a whole lot in common to like maintain a friendship, which is very funny. But I just was like, what are the odds? What are the odds of that happening? Fortunately, there is. I can't blame you for not wanting to read it. The protagonist is kind of a bad person in multiple ways, though. It's just a really dark series. Yeah, I mean, the people I know who like it tend to like darker series. I wouldn't say that Kushiel's Dart is like a particularly... There are places where it skirts the line into like dark fantasy territory, but it's never predominant. It's not like the series, and none of the books like necessarily end on like a really bad note where like, it's like everyone suffers and everyone dies and it's terrible. Like, there's always some redemption. There's always some sort of hope. It's never, only ever just bad all the way through. It can get, there's always dips. There's always lulls and there's always dark parts, but they always come back out and then it always ends up being okay. In one way or another. Maybe not completely okay. Doesn't always go back to where it was before, but, it gets a little, there's some relief. There's some tension relief. Okay, I don't know. We got talking about warriors and roleplay forums and shit. Oh my god. Okay. Let's talk about other things. Let's talk about other things. Okay, I hate wearing jeans. Oh my god. Jeans are a mistake for sitting in. What? Okay. A lot of canes, you see, are treated with lacquers and so on to reduce breakage, but it's still a risk. Yeah, that's also true. Lots of treatments going on. Everyone always asks this question. I think they're so funny. What if kink shaming was a kink itself? Should we respect that kink? That's called humiliation play, and we do respect it. But if you're going to do it, you have to do it with other people who consent to it. So you can do humiliation play, but it has to be self-contained. I am still friends with roleplay forum people from 2 decades ago. That's fantastic, Jasmine. I wish I had done that, but we didn't really like exchange emails or anything. So when the forum would die, we just wouldn't see each other anymore. How do I pick up a bratty persona? Like, I thought about putting an egg in my boyfriend's work boot just to see what he would do to me when he's late for work. I mean, it sounds like you already know what to do to pick up a bratty persona. I mean, first of all, so before you put anything in anyone's work boots, you have to talk about it first. So I would say to your partner, you know, maybe you're hanging out, it's dinner time, you're, you know, cuddling, watching a movie, something like that. You'll talk to them about, hey, I'm curious about trying bratting. Here's like the kind of thing that I have in mind. And here's the reason I want to do it. And it's because, you know, I want to push your buttons a little bit and have fun. But I really want you to, you know, lay into me. I really want you to let me have it. And that's, I want to be bratty. So like you'll do XYZ type of thing to me. I think that would be fun. And then you can lay out what the groundwork is for what kind of bratting is okay, when it's okay. Because different people have different guidelines. And I would say, and I'm planning on making a video like talking about bratting again, because I realize I don't have a standalone video just talking about the basics of bratting. I have some more specific videos about being a bratty dominant or being a brat tamer or a brat handler. And for the very basics you need to know, I would say there's sort of two main subtypes of bratting, and that's like physical bratting and like verbal bratting. So like verbal bratting is like talking back, saying things like, you hit like a girl, is that all you've got? You know, I barely felt that. You know, it tends to be more in the scene, more of like you're kind of a smart ass, you're mouthing off. Maybe you swear a lot. Maybe you tell your partner that they're like a stinky head. You know, if you're a little, maybe you're trying to have a bratty thing. It's not really physical actions, but it's like verbally you're like kind of trying to annoy them, basically. You know, like you could say like for kind of a fun example of this, maybe you could just like always respond to everything with what, or like repeat everything your partner says back to them, and you know, being like, you know, just stop doing that, stop doing that, stop doing that. Like that would be like one form of verbal bratting that maybe isn't even like making fun of your partner or calling them a name, but that is still signaling like, hey, I want you to like, you know, dom me a little bit, please, and put me in my place. Whereas like physical bratting is that kind of thing of like, I'm going to put jelly in my boyfriend's work boot and I'm going to see if he notices. I'm going to replace his toothpaste with mayonnaise. I'm going to put a bunch of perfume in his shampoo so he smells like a girl when he goes to work. You know, that sort of thing. And that you have to be, especially, I mean, all of it you have to be careful with. Verbal stuff, you have to be careful with, like, not stepping on any kind of landmines with, you know, like past trauma, or, you know, just making a partner feel like you really don't care about them. With physical stuff, it's really easy to go past the line. Going from like practical joke into genuine harm. I mean, we've seen that like on YouTube, right? Like people who started out being like practical jokers who were like, pranking my girlfriend. Like how quickly that would escalate from, we're going to the dog bed. We're going to the dog bed, everyone. Warning, dog bed alert. Hi, my baby. What are you doing? Hi. We're talking about bratting. You're not a brat at all. You're an angel. You're an angel, huh, baby? Hi, girl. I know. Look at you. Look at that. Staring at me intently. But yeah, so physical bratting, they have to be very careful with, because like practical jokers on YouTube, right? That went from like being like fun, lighthearted pranks to like faking a pregnancy, faking a miscarriage, faking a carjacking, faking my own death. Like it can get kind of out of hand. So you have to be careful with how far you're taking the bratting, especially physically, because it can escalate quite a bit. Just leave room to explore. And make sure you have very clear guidelines from your partner about like what's okay to brat about or not. Like, you know, about like messing with their food, their body care products, what time of day. You know, is it like something they can immediately tell is a prank? Like, because some people are going to be okay with pranks or bratting that involve something that's like a trick where they won't notice it until like something happens, like, you know, replacing, replacing their fruit punch with cranberry juice or, whatever. Some people are going to be okay with that, and some people are going to be like, absolutely not. I need to be able to know immediately that it's a prank. Because there's like sneaky, like jokey pranks, and then there's like, you can tell immediately, like, when you asked them to unload the dishwasher, they unload the dishwasher, but they stack all the dishes on your bed. And they go, well, but I unloaded it, but you didn't tell me where to put the dishes. Yeah, so hopefully you can see a difference where there's like sneaky stuff that's like a practical joke, and then there's like something that is immediately obvious is like, oh, that was not what I wanted you to do at all. But having very good communication and being willing to explore boundaries is like an absolute must if you want to get into it. But start out really small. You might even start with your partner saying like, hey, I think it'd be fun if you bratted about this thing, and letting your partner lead the conversation, and they as the dom, or just as your boyfriend or your top or whatever, I don't know what your relationship is, whatever it is, you can actually have them lead that change, or that trying that new thing in the relationship, where they can tell you, I think it would be fun if you bratted at me by rolling your eyes, and you can try that, or by leaving me a sassy note in my lunchbox, and then you can build from there and see if that feels good. Because if you start out going balls to the wall with bratting and you go really hardcore, that can actually be very difficult for both an individual and a relationship to recover from. So you got to be careful with that. Good question, though. Really good question. All right. Let's see what else we got. I don't know if anyone had any thoughts about that. Follow-up. For bratting, I also like to talk about what can be challenged. Like, are you challenging the whole power dynamic each time? Are you accepting tasks and are just a brat doing it? Yeah. That's another, like, especially if you're going to be doing anything with power exchange in bratting, like, which rules are okay to mess with or not? Like, if they're okay to mess with, what are the parameters around it? Like, can you mess with it around other people? Can you mess around with it at a public dungeon? Does it only like do all right, my throat's really dry. Is it something that is okay, but you have to talk about it explicitly first? Or like, is it what you're saying where it's like, is it, you have to prove that you're worthy of being my dom? Or is it just like, oh, I want to mess around with, folding the laundry, but like, I'm going to fold it, but maybe not the way you wanted me to the first time. But then once you correct me, I'll do it the right way. Lots of different flavors of bratting, lots of different possibilities for sure. You got to know which one you're playing with. If there's any question about like what can happen, when it can happen, anything like that, you haven't had enough conversations yet about bratting. And it's okay for it to take a while. Like, it's okay for it to take a while to build up to. It's okay for it to take a while to like find what your rhythm is in bratting, because it's a very delicate dynamic, and it's worth it to be patient with it and not go all out immediately and just really calibrate as much as possible, because some people love bratting, some people like it in small doses, and some people it's not their thing at all. And it's better to figure out where they're at incrementally instead of like all at once, and then like potentially not being able to get the relationship back to where it was before. Oh, my phone turned off. There we go. Good point though. Definitely worth talking about that. Great in the pronunciation. Delrin is awesome. Very dense and evil. Yes. That is actually, I didn't talk about with, I guess acrylic actually is like probably less dense than Delrin. Also, depending on how thick the Delrin is, from what I remember using them before, like the thinner ones can also have a little bit of a swish to them as well. Oh, yeah. Nathan just literally said that. Delrin is quite dense, no question, and will have a lot of rebound at certain diameters and can be super bouncy at thinner diameters. Be aware. Yeah. The Delrin is like having a full set of it is fun, but you will have a very different experience using it depending on the diameter of the cane you're using. Oh, something I've wondered about is what are relations like between the vegan kink community and the leather community? I mean, my instinct is to say that there's like not one. I don't know that there is like, I mean, there are people who are vegan in the kink community like me, but there is not necessarily a vegan kink community, at least where I live, or that I've ever like heard of or been a part of. So I wouldn't say that there's a lot of it. I mean, I've actually talked about this with like, people I know that are also vegan about like, what if I went to a leather convention and I hosted a like panel discussion or a group for like talking about veganism and like vegan ethics in like the leather community? I would say, I mean, it really depends. With the leather community, like leather obviously literally practically as a substance is very popular, but like leather community as a set of values does not require wearing of leather garments. You can be leather, like capital L leather, and participate in that and carry leather values with you in your kink relationships, how you conduct yourself, how you have your power exchange, whatever, way you interact with leather. You can have that and like not actually wearing leather at all. I've seen leather folks wear PVC. I've seen them wear latex. I've seen them wear just like, canvas, kilts, like not even actually wearing leather at all. But also for people who do wear leather and kink, absolutely people will buy, new leather clothing and stuff to size. But like secondhand leather clothing is a really big part of the leather scene. A lot of people have their key leather garments, like their caps and their vests, are like secondhand from people who either previously wore them or, is passed down because, just it's part of the family and it's been in that like leather family for a long time. There's also a lot of leather auctions too, where you can get secondhand leather items from people without having to buy new leather. And myself as a vegan, I feel totally fine like buying secondhand leather. I have a number of like secondhand leather pieces, and I feel totally like I feel like that's completely acceptable. I don't have any issues with secondhand leather. I know not all vegans feel comfortable wearing even secondhand leather, but ethically, a lot of people in the leather community are mostly wearing secondhand. And I think it actually would be good to have a dialogue maybe about like the ethics and leather values, but then also like where that intersects with like, animal agriculture and like the leather industry. But yeah, there's not really any, I mean, I haven't really, outside of what you normally hear from like people in that age group, if you're talking to a bunch of, 45 to 55, 65-year-olds, most of them, unless they were hippy dippy themselves, do not have particularly like robust opinions about vegans. They kind of just think, vegans are over there and they're kind of silly and they protest and like, I like bacon. They don't really have they don't hate vegans. They just kind of don't get it. But yeah, that's sort of all there really is to it. Watch the Safe Word did do a good video recently on Bratting. We watched it last night. It was very funny. Would definitely recommend it, especially if you want some examples of a top being a brat and refusing to realize it for 28 minutes. Very fun video. Would recommend. I'm going to do my own one, obviously, because we have our own different perspectives and experiences with bratting. I think it's good to have diversity in opinion, but there's certainly a good one that's worth watching. Any plans for more upcoming interviews? You are a good interviewer, and interviews are really interesting to get a unique perspective on different topics. Not immediately. I don't have anything in the works. I get a hankering every once in a while to like set up interviews. It's like something I'm in the mood for. How every once in a while you're like, I'm in the mood for chili. I get in the mood for doing interviews with people. So I don't have anything that's like planned. I have some old ones I'm still editing that I'm publishing on Patreon, but for new interviews going forward, I don't have anything, on the books, but more likely than not, at some point in the next year, I'll have another couple of interviews to post on YouTube, knock on wood, assuming I still have a channel and YouTube doesn't ban me. I will probably have more interviews, but nothing for certain, no particular people. I do impact with certain metals, and I found it actually is less painful depending on the type than certain types of leather, even silicone. Oh yeah, because I'm not a stingy person, and I like pure thud. I actually don't really experience a lot of like metal impact play as being like negatively painful until it gets like quite intense. Whereas with silicone, everyone I know that has used a silicone toy, it is their least favorite. It is like the Mr. Mean paddle is like the silicone. I don't think I've ever met anyone who's a bottom that's like, my favorite toy, unironically for real, is silicone. It's so good. Everyone's like, I hate it. It's the worst because it's so intense. It's so intense. And like certainly things like Latigo can also be like quite rigid and quite intense for leather as well. Really depends. Hardware store kink. We need a live stream from a hardware store. Oh, I'm not going to do a kink live stream from a hardware store. Those employees do not consent to me talking about BDSM in their presence. I would potentially make a video where I filmed going through. I've actually had this idea for a while, like going through like a thrift store or a TJ Maxx or a TK Maxx if you're in the UK. Or a hardware store, and like picking stuff out, but not saying anything in the moment, but like doing a voiceover in post to be like, this is why I picked this thing, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I would use this for. That would be the angle, as opposed to like openly being like, hey viewers, here's this perfect thing that's great for bondage. Like I'm not gonna do that in front of the moms that are just at the TJ Maxx on a Tuesday to get a good deal. All right. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to have that conversation. I'm not going to make them. They're just there to do some shopping. I knew someone who liked an epoxy paddle with Legos on it. Blink slowly. Yeah, I've seen those. They're popular for like beginner blood play, actually. Like some people, I don't do like blood impact play. That's like outside. At this point in my life, I'm like, maybe when I was a little younger, I would do it. But at this point, I got to reserve my body for other purposes, and I need to be up and mobile. So we're going to not do that. But I've heard people like it for that reason. Maybe not for the Legos themselves, but for the type of thing it facilitates more than anything. All right, good point. There's for sure a lot of variants. Oh, no, I talked about that already. Answer the question about bratty personas already. Oh, by the way, I didn't say this earlier. I meant to. I didn't say it. Please don't spam the chat. I do try to answer questions in order they come in. Obviously, when we're having a back and forth conversation about a topic, I won't always get immediately onto another question. But if it's been 10 minutes and I haven't answered your question yet, I'm not going to see it any sooner if you ask it a second time. So just be patient. I will give people like maybe another 10 minutes. I will answer questions and then I'll just like focus on like answering the more recent ones, doing a little bit of a speed round answers for the last 10 minutes or so. As a parent, Legos are a hard limit at this point. Yeah, that is fair enough. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Canes are freaking awesome. That's about all there is to it. Yeah, people love canes. But for some reason, the people who love canes, I think, tend to be more in like the Spanko domestic discipline world and not as much in like the general BDSM world. There's a whole nerdery to doing canes. I really became a fan with the time. Love the stingy sensation and also the aesthetic, enjoying some of the roleplay scenarios it fits. I really like caning because of how you can take one instrument from 0 to 100 and you can start out doing really, really light. And I like how quickly you can do it. And also it's like really good. Like you can do it really easily from a wheelchair. You can do it really easily laying down. It's a very accessible kink and it's very like low. I mean, like you have to build skill to be able to do it well, but when you are doing it well, you can very easily like work your way up, from 0 to 100. And then also like doesn't require a lot of physical exertion to be able to do it either. It's like the opposite of like flogging with a heavy flogger. It's very sustainable. There's also a lot of cane specialists on the East Coast, so it's probably regional. Oh, yeah. I don't know why caning, when you say that, I'm like, yeah, caning is like an East Coast thing. It just makes sense. Yeah. They're also UK, anything with like corporal, like domestic discipline, if it's like Tawses, canes, like old school paddling, old school OTK spankings, birch rods, UK's got you covered with that for sure. They're also one of my favorites. My base dungeon has a spiral acrylic one that's about 1 inch and brutal. Oh yeah, I meant to talk about that when I talked about acrylics, and I was like, that's too specific. No one's going to care about that. But yeah, there's some manufacturers of acrylic canes. There's a clear spiral acrylic that you can buy that is sort of like a unicorn horn spiral. And those are, I'd say they're fun, but well, I have to try one to find out. I'm going to try one to find out what that's like. Lesbians, BDSM community, hardware stores. Yep. We're all in symbiosis together. I want to be a brat just so I can get a punishment. Like, what do I do to get a worthy punishment? Talk to your partner, say that's what you want, and then stick to their guidelines. There you go. Answer the question about sex in scenes. She has a sticker loyalty card scheme. If you do 4 scenes, you get a special sticker. That is so funny. I love that idea. I love that idea so much. Oh my gosh. I love that. It's like a mini version of like a sticker chart for doing chores. Gonna buy one, get one free. I actually like that because it's like, if you're a dom or a top, it's like, all right, 9 out of every 10 scenes, we're doing, it's like a collaboration. And then the 10th one, I'll do a little like service topping. You get to pick whatever you want to do. I'll do it. It's a freebie. It's on the house. I actually really like that idea. That's fun. That's cute. At the West Coast parties and club bar parties, it's pretty sex-free. At some of the vetted and private parties in NYC and Philly, it's pretty much anything goes. Yeah, that's... and then, like, obviously, it's even, like, different cities are different from each other. It gets very, very, very myopic. If you feel comfortable, could you possibly talk about punching as a form of impact play, particularly how to do it safely? I'm in a top, so I can't really tell you what topping it is like. Punching is one of my favorite forms of impact play by far. It's really good. I love punching. That's how I discovered I was a masochist, was by doing scenes with punching or things that were really close to it. Like there's like some toys that are like a similar type of impact play to punching. And like just saying it like that, like just saying punching, it sounds really extreme, but it doesn't have to be extreme at all. It, I mean, it really depends like the size difference between like the bottom and the top, but stick to the really meaty areas of the body. Mostly that's going to be the butt and the very top of the thighs. The femur is a really strong bone, but like don't do anything too crazy. All right. It is possible to hurt someone doing punching. Obviously, that's why, people do it as like a combat thing. But, if you're doing it on, some of these, like if they have enough tissue and you're doing it on like the butt, the thighs, or like sort of the sit spot, like sort of between, like there's like the butt cheeks, right? And you got this little spot right here. If you're hitting right there, if you're punching there, that can be very pleasurable for people. Some people also will do it on like the chest or on breast tissue. And that is... it really just depends on the person. Like for me, if I were to do that, it would just knock the wind out of me every single time and it would not be enjoyable at all. But if you're somebody, that's been blessed with a lot of breast tissue, or you've got really big chest muscles or something because you work out, or just because that's how you are genetically, you certainly can have enough tissue to get in there and do some kind of close range stuff. In general, like again, I'm on a top. This is not my area of expertise by any means. Please do more research. I don't really know if I haven't been to a class where somebody's like taught punching as like a distinct activity. It's kind of been in the medley of things where it's like, oh yeah, and you can also do this. But generally speaking, with punching, you want to keep it really, you want to like, obviously there's like how to like punch someone. But you like when you're doing it, you don't want to like start from really far back and like, like you're winding up to like hit a baseball. You want to keep it pretty close. And it's very similar to like you want to like almost like with spanking, you want to like start out being very like slow, like taps, really get your aim like totally in there, and then you can start kind of backing up a little bit more and putting a little bit more like of like actual force into it. But you don't really want to get to the point where you're like completely like hauling away in a person. Are there people who do that? Yes. That is edge play. That is not really what I'm talking about. That's almost a different thing entirely. This is about using like a fist as a sensation play tool. It's like, I almost think about it like you're spanking someone, but you're doing it with a closed fist instead of like an open hand. And that's probably the best way of describing it, I would say. Yeah, exactly. There's like definitely, you want to learn how to like actually punch properly. You want to learn how to make a fist properly. On punching, you must do bag work and know how to manage the forces involved, like how much to pull back. So yeah, like it's like any other form of like direct contact and impact play where you're using your body. You have to be very aware of like how much force you're using, where you're putting that force, and you know, just practice bodily awareness basically. I had a punching workshop this year. A lot of techniques you can take from sports. Oh yeah, like if you're doing any kind of a grappling sport, that's you know, that can definitely have some carryover for sure. Yeah, there are people, I think it is like there's like a subset of like a fetish thing. People are into like stomach punching and gut punches. I probably wouldn't recommend that without any kind of like, that's going to be more edge play territory. That's not really the kind of thing I'm talking about. Whenever you're getting into like, there's a reason why we have an instinct to protect this part of our body and like protect our stomach, because it is one of the most vulnerable spots on our entire body. It has a lot of important organs that we only have one of. And it like, I think people tend to get a sense of invulnerability because like nothing's ever gone wrong before, so it'll probably be fine. And it only takes one instance for something to go wrong, to miss an aim and like fracture a rib, bruise a rib, you know, hit somebody in the liver, you know, cause some kind of internal damage. Again, there's a reason why this is used in combat sports. You know, it is, and like why when they're doing combat sports, you know, people are wearing gloves, you know, there's rules about it. You have to be very cognizant of what you're doing. So, you know, do people do it? Yes. Again, for any version of anything, there's probably somebody out there that's doing it, but, you know, delineating sort of more advanced edge play, you know, higher risk activities versus, you know, sort of a more standard intro way of doing it, doing things on the stomach is generally not advisable on the torso. It's not generally advisable. There are also, yeah, you can, there are kink suppliers that, like you can buy sap gloves. You can get leather gloves too. I really like doing stuff with leather gloves and sap gloves. It's fantastic. It's a great tool. And you can get those like almost any convention. Mistress Leather, I think, stocks them. A lot of places online stock them, and that's a good way to do it. No. I was talking about the stomach. I did mean like the front of the torso, and talking about punching on the front of the torso, I do actually mean the liver. The kidneys, I mean, probably, I mean, the kidneys are always in the mix. You know, whenever you're punching somebody full on in the gut, that can have knock-on effects throughout your whole bodily systems. So, you know, do proceed with caution with that, but I did actually mean the liver. Break out the sock boppers to play it safe. Oh my god, that'd be so funny. When somebody says karate gloves, I just think of SpongeBob and like the giant foam hands. That's all I can think of. That would be funny. That would be really funny, like a Halloween roleplay scene, being like SpongeBob and Sandy in like karate outfits punching each other. That'd be so. No one's done that. No one's even got close to that yet. Everyone just pretends to be a political figure. No one's funny. No one's funny with their like roleplay scenes. It's always like, oh, I'm Trump and I'm being walked around by unleashed by Nancy Pelosi. Like, been there, done that. Boring. Somebody dress up like SpongeBob. Somebody put on yellow body paint and get her the karate glove. All right. I need to see a scene of somebody dressed up like Miss Piggy and Kermit the Frog. That's what I need. I don't need another person wearing a Trump mask. I need somebody in green body paint doing a Jordan Peterson impression, pretending to be Kermit the Frog. And I guess also Jordan Peterson at the same time. That would be funny. OMG, but it was definitely not a full-on punch. My husband is like 3 times my size and held back a ton for sure. I think I'd die if he punched me for real. I mean, like, yeah, don't risk it. Yeah, it's one thing if they're like really holding back and it's like more gentle. Like, I know, especially if you're talking about like the very, like almost on like the pubic mound still, like the very, very, very lower part of the stomach, like basically where the end of your rectus abdominis is. Like if this is, if this is the beginning of your like pubic mound in your vulva, like that area immediately above it, putting pressure on there actually can be very pleasurable for people with clitorises. So honestly, probably people with all different types of equipment going on, but I don't have experience with somebody with a penis, having this kind of thing happen to them and like seeing what their physical reaction was. So, definitely that very upper area, light stimulation there can also be pleasurable for people during orgasm as a way to contribute to orgasm. Listen, I don't know what kind of freaky shit y'all get up to. That could be a thing. Yeah, exact place. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a difference between, like, punching someone. You can't really see my torso, but I also have a very short torso, so, like, I feel like I'm not a good anatomical representation of, like, a typical person's, like, body and, like, how close together things are. But there's a difference between, like, punching someone, like, up here, like, up, like, onto the ribs, getting into, like, the solar plexus, xiphoid process, like, getting into the liver, potentially off on the side, like the upper quadrants of the torso. That's very different than, like, punching someone essentially on their pubic mound. Just because of, like, you're probably not going to hurt the ribs if you punch someone in the pubic mound. You can definitely cause issues with their hip bones. That's a whole other thing. But this is getting into, like, complicated territory that I don't have the anatomical knowledge or the topping experience to really speak on with any kind of authority. But a force, how much force you're putting into it, how well you can see the person, how, like, are you really being precise with your aim? So many factors, can make that more or less safe. Mm-hmm. I mean, most of the people who have punched me have been a lot larger than me, but they just really know how to, like, hold it in, not just completely let it rip every single time they're throwing a punch. Like, it's been very like close and very precise. So far, everyone I've ever been told who hasn't previously done punching that I'm into punching, they have the same reaction, which is like, oh. It kind of scares them for a minute. They're like, what? Like, it's just like, it's not really that, like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's not really that intense. I feel like I have to sell people on this a lot. Like, the things that a lot of people think are edge play are actually, like, sometimes less intense than, like, other standard forms of pain play. Like, I think that, like, scalpels are actually, like, way less intense, than like electroplay. I think that like punching is, like, less intense than a really intense caning with, like, a whippy cane. Like, it's things that people assume are like, oh, that's too far. It's like, actually, it's, like, way less intense than probably what you're expecting. Anyways, that's sort of, if you want to learn about punching, please take classes. I'm not an expert. This is just from the top of my head, my approximate knowledge. Do not take this as gospel. Please read about it, learn about it, take classes in the community, or if you're really into it, maybe take some martial arts classes or something like that. Learn the basics at least, and you get some practice time in. All right. Oh my gosh. Okay, we have less than 10 minutes left. I'm going to zoom through some questions here, and we're going to try to get to as many as I can. How many Hasbro toys can I kinkify? All of them. Correct answer. Yes. Ask any little. That is correct. All right. Settling was, as is the case 90% of the time, the only viable option. If it went to trial, I would spend $250,000 and wouldn't have had a recovery claim. US doesn't make the loser of a suit pay. Yeah, I think in the UK that's different. I'm not sure about Canada. Very expensive. Most people, 90% of people, do not have $250,000 to their name. Handshake between Kamala and my husband. Do not come. Exactly. That's exactly what I was referencing. I think I answered this one already, but yes, I have read the Warrior series. It's about cats that live in clans. I did not ever read the dog one. That got published sort of after I'd kind of gone away from Warriors as a series, but as I talked about before, I have read them. What are you doing, Doggo? You're like moving around all over the place today. Normally you're like snoozing queen, but today you're like, she's like going all over the place. She's like, just exploring her whole domain. Yeah, I know I was talking to you, huh? We're gonna have to hang out. We're gonna have to have a cuddle session after this stream is done, I can tell. You've gotta get some energy run off here. Talking about the Warriors series. Okay, I know we missed probably some earlier questions. Also, if I didn't answer your question yet, please re-ask it now, and I will get to that. Yep, Bramble Star. Spoiler alert. It's a thing. Good times. I mean, spoiler alert, Firestar. Ooh, who would have seen that coming? I weirdly remember a lot about that series. Kind of stuck in my brain in some weird ways. Like the bit with the badger by the sea, I always remember. I don't know why. It pops up in my brain every once in a while. I think I missed a question. I scrolled past it by accident. Oh no, I lost it now. The book I was talking about was Kushiel Start. What about matriarchal dominance? I mean, any kind of dominance you want to do is fine. I would say I do not ethically agree with female supremacy, male supremacy, any philosophy that's like that. As a little haha joke inside your relationship, joking about that when you both know you don't really believe in it, that's fine. But I will say, if you are going to play with that, you have to be very clear that it's role play. A lot of people that practice female or male supremacy, though it's funny that there's both of them, kind of only one of you could be right? Or maybe both of you are both wrong. It's actually the last one. But you have to be very clear, because a lot of people legitimately believe that. I actually have a video coming out soon of an old story on the channel, a good old House of Cataphor, and it turns out that the guy behind the House of Cataphor is the biggest misogynist and male supremacist that I have seen, that was very popular and publicly known about in the BDSM scene. Obviously, individual people in the scene, there's definitely worse people than him, but as a public figure that had a level of influence and notoriety, he was, he literally, I don't want to spoil it too much because it gets pretty intense, but male supremacy to the point of believing that women are even incapable of being good mothers, and that women actually are not even really good at raising children because they are incapable of loving men to such a deep level that they can't even love their male children. Just some truly wackadoodle shit. So you have to be careful with anything like that, even if you don't mean it as a genuine belief. A lot of people do. All right, we're scrolling, we're looking, we're scanning, we're monitoring for questions. Do you have any tips and or resources for people topping while experiencing mid-lower back issues? My first instinct is to see a physical therapist. Anything with back issues, physical therapy can really help with. Tips and resources for people topping while experiencing mid-lower back pain. Do things that you can do while seated with appropriate back support. I don't really know a lot about lower back, or I mostly know upper back stuff, upper back support. Oh, sorry, puppy. Didn't mean to freak you out with the chair moving. This is patiently waiting for me to be done with the stream. But anything that has like good backrest, good support for that, and something that you can do without like bending over the person, something you do comfortably seated where they're at a level where you don't have to bend over to reach them. Caning is really good for that. Paddles are really good for that. Those are probably the two things I imagine would be best for that, or at least spanking as well would probably be good. But don't be afraid to advocate for yourself, and like it's not, why do we make cashiers stand at grocery stores? Why do we make tops stand? It's okay to sit. It's okay. That's fine. That's just accessibility thing. I think even if you can't find a good chair or a stool in a dungeon to be able to support yourself, having pillows and blankets and things that you can help turn into like a bolster for support can be beneficial for that. But I don't really have a lot of experience with lower back issues, so maybe someone else in the chat has some ideas for that. Yeah, she is ready to go. I think a lot of people relate to squirrel flight for real. Everyone's like, she's just like me. Do you think people harp on the kink community by weaponizing taboos and conflating anything that's frowned upon with literal crimes, despite not actually meeting the same definition? I think that's, I think that's how a lot of people talk about kink, is they're incapable of understanding the nuanced differences between, like, for example, I think the big one is probably like abuse and BDSM, because they assume that abuse or like crimes are just like physical actions and that's just all they are. And it's like, no. It's not like... Like, abuse is a systemic system of coercive control that you cannot stop no matter what you say, and consent is irrelevant. Whereas in kink, consent is everything. A single word will stop everything from happening, and it is meant to make the people in it feel better than how they started, ultimately. But I think a lot of it just goes back down to, like, fear and... sort of starting from a place of like believing it must be bad because kink is hitting people, and hitting people is always wrong, so therefore it has to be wrong. Like they start out from a place of believing it has to be wrong, and then they'll sort of do whatever they have to support their conclusion. A rolling chair with changeable height can be really helpful. I know. Oh my god. I forgot all about all the romance drama in the Warriors books. That was like, I'm asexual, so maybe I just didn't focus on that part too much. I wanted to hear about the cool cats doing cat shit. That's what I wanted to know. But the romance drama is definitely there. All right, I'm going to scroll up a little bit here. Try not to give anyone ideas. I did a scene once where I was pressing on the lower stomach with a closed fist without actually picking up my fist. Just applying pressure there. My partner said it felt really good. Oh yeah, that's just apply pressure. Oh my god. I just thought about head on, apply it directly to the forehead. Head on, apply it directly to the forehead. I have not thought about that commercial in at least like 3 years. And now I thought about it again. It's like losing the game, but for a very specific niche commercial. What makes a good master? My boyfriend's my master, but I want him to earn and take the title and own me. He's never been one before. How can he become masterful? Oh, fuck. I don't know. It's a lot. So that's talk to other doms, take some classes, show initiative, learn, and being humble about where his skill set really is, and always be. I think, to me, what makes somebody a good leader and a good master and a good dom is like being humble and transparent, always being curious and always being open to feedback and learning, knowing where they have gaps in their skill set, and like be pursuing ways to, if they want to, if it's something that they care about having a gap in their skill set on, always be pursuing ways to fill in that gap, basically, in their knowledge, and then care about the people that they're leading, and like act in a kind way, but in an authoritative way. And sometimes that means making decisions the other person doesn't like, but you're taking their best interest into account, and like listening to the people that are underneath them, that are under their leadership. There's actually books you can read that talk about like how to be a good leader that are more like corporate focused that actually like apply pretty well to BDSM. But you can't make someone be a master. I feel like I haven't had to talk about that one for a while, but you can't make someone be a master. So if they don't, you can't like, you can give them all the podcasts, all the books in the world, and if that's not who they really are, they're not, you know, not their thing. Ba-ba-dum. Da-da-dum. Now I'm thinking of a joke weapon from one of video games. It's called Measure of a Man, and it was a giant ruler. I think people have actually made that before. I think I've seen, there's one that I think Miss Rose Paddles makes that's a ruler, and it says, this is what 6 inches actually looks like, and then it marks on the 6-inch mark, like where 6 inches is, which I think, you know, they did that to themselves, honestly. They really did. Avi, last question. Who is your favorite warrior cat? It's one of the medicine, Dapple something? What the fuck is her name? It's one of the medicine cats. Is it Willow? Is it Dappled Pelt? No, fuck, I don't remember. It's one of the medicine cats. One of those ones. I wish I remembered enough about like the plot to be like, oh yeah, it's definitely this one. One of them. Haven't had to think about warriors cats in like 10 years, so. Oh, Spotted Leaf, thank you. Might be Spotted Leaf actually. Though there is another medicine cat that has Dappled in it. But yeah, I think it's Spotted Leaf. Thank you. Do you think that someone can be late or is too old to join the kink community? No. I know people in the kink scene that are in their 70s. I'm sure there are people in the kink scene who are in their 80s, but I haven't personally met them and like known what their age is. People get into the scene in their 40s, 50s, and 60s all the time. It's very common for people like to get into kink after a divorce, after raising their kids, you know, after just reaching a stage of life where they're like, "Fuck, it's my 60th birthday. I guess I just gotta get out there. It's time to start living." So you're never too old. You know, at least if you have to be 18. But after that point, it's, you know, if you really want to do it, I mean, obviously you have to make more risk assessments with your physical health. You know, if you have osteoporosis, if you have heart issues, if you're on certain medications, like there's more things you have to factor into the types of activities that you do in kink. But by no means are you excluded from the kink community because you're a certain age, as long as you're above 18, obviously. Warrior cats versus Jellicle cats. I've never seen the Cats musical, so I don't have any opinions about Jellicle cats, other than, like, I guess everyone was collectively traumatized by the cat, I don't know, TV musical, movie musical. Oh my gosh, that's reassuring. I'm 32 and I'm getting into it. You were, like, young by kink community standards, okay? It took me until I was in my mid-20s, like even late 20s, to not be the youngest person in the room most of the time. Like the average kinky person is like, I would say, depending on where you live, between 35 and like 50. So you're like right in there. Even like 55, like that's really common too. Yeah, 32 and just getting into it. You're totally fine. 32, that's young. You have so much time. Don't worry about it. I'm 30. Given if I was just starting at kink in 30, but it's also like a lot of people have like an early midlife crisis when they discover kink, or I feel like the 30s are like the adult solidifying years, you know, when you really, you know, are setting up the rest of your life. That's a common era and age, I think, for people to really, you know, feel comfortable with their kink side enough to be able to get into it. I didn't realize that people hated her. This is what I get. I just get to have my own opinions about warriors because, like, I never got involved in the community. I don't know who's popular. I don't know who everyone's favorite is. I just have my own opinions. That's it. I did really like, honestly, I really liked Blue Star in the first books. I was a Blue Star fan. It's hard not to love Blue Star though. Everyone, fandoms are always, they always got strong opinions though. Although if you're 32, you still are in the age range to do like a couple years of TNG events, so take advantage. Anyways, it is 10 after. It's time for me to go. I'm hungry. My dog desperately needs one-on-one attention. And she is my princess, and I need to attend her. So, sorry, y'all. I gotta go take care of Princess Bandit. Queen Bandit, really. Queen Bandit. Anyways, Queen Bandit needs some attention, needs some love. Thank you all so much for joining me on this Friday live stream. This has been fantastic. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Blue Star did get emo at the end of her life. True facts. Anyways, hopefully I'll see you all next time. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourselves, drink some water, stay safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. She's activated. She heard. Yeah, hi, honey. You want to come say hello? And really say goodbye. Hello and goodbye. You want to say aloha? Come here. Come on, come here. Come here. I know, come on. You have to come over here. That's how this works. Come on. I can't pick you up if you're on the floor. There we go. Oh, you're going to make me come over there. I know. Oh, your nose is so wet. You little grunties? You got the grunties? Why are you grunting? Why are you grunting, huh? This dog is the best part of my life. So good. Would you like the Warriors cats? You love cats. You love cats. They're your favorite. Your favorite creatures on earth are cats. You love them. You're so obsessed. Do you even know what a cat is? Do you even know what they are as a distinct category? I don't think so. You just know that they're interesting and you just love them. Oh, fantastic. She is such a cutie pie, I know. Very spoiled, but within limits. I don't do anything that jeopardizes her health for the sake of making her happy. Sometimes we gotta do things like not give our dog the chili pistachios, even if she really wants one. Because you can't have chili. You're a dog. I know, she has her little propeller tail going. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next week. Bye!